Hello, my name is Tony Barone. I'm going to be talking about my new book. It's a collection of short plays. So I hope you watch the video and why it came about. I fell in love with theater because I grew up exactly one city mile from Times Square. So even as a little kid, walking around the theater marquees was just part of my life. So I studied at Columbia, where theater was also an important part of just the campus life. There's a Miller Theater up there, which is quite well attended. So it's kind of always been part of my life, although not actively as a writer until several years ago when I left industry. Can't make a living as a writer, as you know, unless you're in California. And I fell in love with writing at a very early age. I think I've always written. It wasn't obsessive until I literally retired from industry. When I was in industry, I worked in global logistics. So I was in customs. So I was hopping around the world all the time on airplanes. And so I spent a lot of time on long flights where I had the opportunity to do something, to write. So I did. I didn't really take it too seriously till I left industry. Then I wrote a play, and I realized that it wasn't any fun to write it unless I could hear it performed. So I entered into a theater festival. The artistic director liked it. We put it on, and it was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed tremendously working with the actors. And so I did another one. And that one also went very well. And again, the enjoyment was principally hearing my own play being acted by really great cast members. The first one was a comedy. The second one was more drama, but comic elements to the drama. Then COVID hit, and I had belonged to a writers group, but they were novelists and poets. I was really the only one writing for the theater. So I decided to join a theater group in the city, in Manhattan, meeting right in the Times Square area. The group was called Times Square Playwrights. That also included actors, professional actors. So writers would bring in material and actors would read it. And so that kind of got me going into writing the short play, which is really a different animal than full-length plays. So we're meeting weekly, and so weekly I wrote a play, and it will be read weekly. I continue to write long plays, but you can't do that in 15-minute segments. So the long plays, I put one up on YouTube actually called Casanova in Jail, which is a comedy. And it was well received, but I continued to write the short plays. So after they're written, I'm saying, well, what now? They just kind of die there in limbo on the hard drive. So that's how this short book came about, that I just took the first 5 plays and put them in one book and just published it. So I've continued writing, however, so there's going to be more 5 plays and more 5 plays, because the short play format is easy to write. You can do everything in 15 minutes, and so it's satisfying to type the end. I had written probably 15 screenplays, and the screenplay, unless it's picked up on Hollywood and somebody makes the movie, you don't ever see it. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to move to theater. When I moved to theater, I realized it was a totally different animal than the screenplay. Screenplay is about action, and the stage play is about dialogue. I mean, you have dialogue in both, but primarily theater is about the interaction of the characters. And I think in the screenplay, it's more about the interaction and with the world and the environment. So it's far for me more satisfying to write a play that I can see performed than a movie that I cannot see performed. There are lots of movies. I mean, I watch movies all the time. I love movies. I still write for the screen. But I don't spend a lot of time trying to sell screenplays because I guess I'm old. I don't have that much time to waste trying to sell something for the screen. So maybe something will be picked up, maybe it won't. But the plays I can continue to write. I can produce myself if I want. I've directed a couple of myself, and it's satisfying. The process that I followed to date, writing, especially a short play, is from the germ of the idea to finishing the first draft is can't take more than a day or two. In the book that we're talking about, there are 5 totally different themes, genres. There's horror, there's comedy, there's drama. So if you want to stay in the groove, you need to work on the piece. And so again, it's a good reason for me to work that way, because I can get through the first draft in a day or 2 or 3, and then come back and polish and polish and polish and polish. And it's actually a never-ending task because I'm never quite satisfied with the end product until it's read, and then it's over with, or it's staged. Once it's on the stage and the actor has uttered the lines, that's it. There are no more changes. I think that's also a difference from the screen format. In fact, we're going to do a play that we're going to try to film not as a Zoom talking head, but full body on stage, as if it were a stage play. So that will be kind of between a movie and a Zoom stage production. But again, as I say, they're different animals. Even the Zoom production of a play is a totally different animal than the stage production of the same play. There are no entrances and exits. There are talking heads. In Casanova in Jail, we did try to emulate what it would look like if we were on stage, just with stock footage and sounds coming in and so on. But filming even those plays will be different because the actor will actually move his arms, legs, look one way, another way, approach each other, distance each other. There's stage business going on. So again, even though it's the same play, it will be a different animal. So I wrote 5 short plays. As I mentioned before, I wrote them to be read at writer-actor groups that I'm a part of. They appear in the book in the order in which they were written. The first story is The Charitable Heart is the title. It was actually based on an O. Henry short story. And it's about a fellow who is down and out, so to speak. He's broke, he's jobless, and it's Christmas time, and he has no money to buy his wife a Christmas present. He meets an old parent drunk who he sits with on a bench, and the drunk reveals that he had once been a young man himself and had been in a similar situation. He had purchased his wife a beret that he gave her for Christmas, and she was very happy. And he speaks about their young married life, and for example, that he had no money, but his wife decorated a little Christmas tree with socks and an aluminum top to the tree. So the drunk at the end of this story reveals that his wife had cut her hair, so the barrette is kind of unnecessary. His hair wasn't there. But she had cut her hair so that she could sell the hair and buy him a gift for Christmas. So it's a sweet play, I would say. It's about love. It's a love story. It's a love story of the old drunk. It's also a love story of the young man and his wife. And it was about the current time that people are out of work. Those that are out of work, that are unfortunate to be out of work, are having to deal with needs that are very personal. The second story in the book is Whispers. Whispers is a story of gossipers in a retirement home in Amsterdam. It was based actually on, I had gone to Amsterdam, and what happened was that I got off a train, and instead of making a right, I made a left, and I wound up in the red light district in Amsterdam. That was the basis for this story. The gossipers are two ladies sitting on one end of the room and two ladies in the other end of the room. The other end of the room is this famous ballerina, Russian ballerina, who laments that she's no longer a ballerina, and is convinced that the ladies on the other end are whispering about her. In fact, they are. One of them is jealous and thinks that the ballerina is haughty and so on. That story resolves, I have to tell you the ending of all these stories, but there is a twist when a distinguished aristocrat comes to visit the famous ballerina, and happens that he had known one of the two gossipers, and he had met her in the red light district. So it's a comedy, but it's not a backslapping kind of comedy. It's about aging. It's the famous ballerina, laments the loss of her, famous status. When people would come and visit her and send her flowers, no one remembers her anymore. The third story in the book is, it's kind of a spoof. It's based on the Conan Doyle character, Sherlock Holmes, favorite character of mine. I love detective plays and movies and stories and books. But in this story, Sherlock Holmes has gotten everything wrong. And it's a kind of a reflection of the fact that at some point you start to lose some of those strengths and attributes that you had at one time. Here's the famous detective, but the famous detective in this story is getting everything wrong. And Watson is the character that is kind of his foil. At the end, even though he's gotten everything wrong, in the case is the woman who's wanted to hire him as to keep track of her husband. But so in the end of the story, it turns out that Sherlock doesn't really recognize that he's lost his ability to solve cases on just tiny bits of information. So it's just my love of Sherlock, actually. As I say, these stories are compact. From the first act to the third act, 12 minutes have passed. So a lot happens. The next story is the one actually that folks have really liked a lot. In fact, it's going to be produced, I think it's next month, by a group called Twilight Productions. It's called War Stories. War Stories is about a young man and his father, actually. The young man is enlisting in the military. The, he's really not understanding what's involved in the military and in combat and warfare. His father is delighted the son is doing this. This is a patriotic thing that the son is doing. The mom isn't as happy, but the father explains that she really doesn't understand what it means to be a man and what it means to be a patriot. So in comes Uncle Sam, who is going to be driving the boy down to the recruitment office. Uncle Sam is a combat veteran and relates the story because the young boy asked, had you seen action? And so Uncle Sam relates the horrendous experiences that he had encountered in Vietnam, actually. And it's very graphic, very bloody, very authentic. And the boy realizes that he would rather go to college and do some ROTC before he decides to go off to war. So the story resolves really with the mother thanking Uncle Sam for coming. And notice none of these things are explicit. The explicit message is, thanks for coming and telling my son what warfare is all about. I think it's inspired by going to the movies and seeing, ads from the military, come and jump out of airplanes and do all these heroic things without showing the other side. The other side are the limbless soldiers and soldiers without a face and the brains spilling out onto the battlefield. So I thought that it would be a good idea to show both sides. And then, if you want to go ahead and enlist and be a soldier, well, it's necessary because Uncle Sam needs you. So the last story in the collection is Blackwell's Island. This was written specifically for Halloween, actually. And it's based on the life of the true life character, true life person, Nellie Bly, who was, I think, the first investigative reporter, period. And she went undercover to Blackwell's Island, which was an insane asylum in New York City, to report on the horrors of Blackwell's Island. Well, she doesn't come back. So her boyfriend then follows her and finds himself in a straitjacket, about to have his brain shocked. So I say it's a horror story, and I think Edgar Allan Poe kind of story, at least that's what it's been compared to. Whispers is more a Guy de Maupassant kind of story. So each one is a different genre, different approach to storytelling, but they're all told in this compact form. I don't really write for profit. I'm blessed in that sense that I'm not writing to earn a living. I don't know that there are a lot of people that are, even though there's a lot of content on Netflix and Amazon and that. I think, I know from various groups that I belong to, that most writers will never see their material performed or even read. So I write for the entertainment of the reader and the entertainment of the theater goer. I want folks to be entertained. I want them to come in and go through the drama and the melancholy or the happy moment or the relief of tension. So I'm writing for the audience. I'm not writing for the mass market or for advertisers or anybody like that. So it's very gratifying to see performance and to see folks clap, or at least to imagine those who have read the book to be satisfied that they've gone through an artistic experience. And the proceeds are all going to, whatever proceeds there are, will go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. I would hope folks buy it and buy it so that it will go out to St. Jude's. It's a wonderful charity. Local theaters are the the place where the work of the playwright is finally brought to the public. There's no other place to do this. So if there were no theaters, there'd be no playwrights. If there were no playwrights, there'd be really no examination of these, issues of humanity. So supporting local theater is supporting, the existence of the playwright and the continuation of the art form. As I say at the outset, I grew up 20 blocks from Times Square. But it's very few plays that make it to Broadway. We're blessed in New York City to have many off-Broadway and off-Broadway venues. So I actually live in New Jersey, so it's 35 minutes from downtown Manhattan. So I'm still blessed. But if you don't have theater in your town and in your state, then you're really missing out a lot. So those that are out there really do need the support of the community, and because there are writers all over, and they need a place to present their work. They'll disappear, and I think the community is left with what remains. What remains is what we see on Netflix and what we see on Amazon and those venues, which at the end of the day, I don't think is very enriching, and certainly doesn't reflect the local community. The playwright, especially if they're writing under a Dramatist Guild kind of contract, which I do, not one line can be changed in the production without the playwright agreeing to it. So. But that's also why I've directed plays, because the director can also, inadvertently perhaps, change the message of the play. The first play that I put on was a comedy, as I mentioned, and I went through a couple of directors, not because I didn't fire them, but they left for one reason or another, and so I wound up with a director who thought some of the lines were a little too risque. It was comedy. I think it was, I had actually researched how many ways to say masturbate and this character in this particular scene. They're all slang terms, but I probably went through 15 of them. Well, director, not 15, but several. And the director didn't like it, so he cut them. But that was the nature of the play. That was the nature of the character, and it was supposed to be, a buffoon kind of thing. So I think the playwright needs to be part of the production process. When you just sell a play and it's gone, then it's gone, and it's no longer under the playwright's artistic vision. Now it's the vision of the director. I give a lot of latitude to the actor, because I've done pieces where one play or one part is performed by 3 or 4 different actors. They all are different, materially different performances, and the actor brings their own person to the character, and so that's rich. And when where players produce, you want the play to be rich, so you want the actor to interpret the character, and they do, and I think it's lovely. And there are lines that I thought would be very melancholy lines that turned out to be somewhat comedic, and so on. But that's okay. I think that's the nature of theater, that every single performance is different. Well, my name is Tony Barone. I hope you enjoyed our talk. The name of the book is simple title, 5 Short Plays. It's out on Amazon. I hope you buy it. There's a Kindle and a hardcover version. I hope you read it. I hope you like it. I hope you decide to produce and perform it. And thank you for listening.